Right, so after a nice little side trip playing Axis of Evil Iran, I only played one of it. I thought about doing more, but for a number of reasons I chose not to. One of which is my birthday's coming up, and we might be setting something up where I want to use that downstairs room. So yeah. Anyway, here we are back with War and Peace, using the old set instead of the new set, even though I'm using mostly the new rules for it. And what is our situation? Well, France beat both Austria and Prussia once. They have just beat both of them for the second time, actually, right? Not quite. Prussia is still holding out, but can be defeated at any point. Austria was beaten back here in June, but it's taken forever to move forces forward. We're in a position where we're about ready to take the war to Russia, but I want good weather for that, unfortunately. And that's going to put Austria and maybe even Prussia back in, well, Prussia is going to take a while. But Austria, you know, by the time good weather's there, Austria's almost ready to rejoin the war. So I'm going to be in this position where I have to leave a garrison behind that can handle Austria and keep them locked out. They have a lot of troops to build. They don't have to build them all to declare war in the multiplayer game. They would. I'm actually not even sure if they would. They wouldn't be able to enter the war in the two-player game because of the alliance system, which still is in place and still fucks the game up horribly. We've already defeated Spain. They probably can't convert over. They might end up pro-French. They're actually available for rolls at this point. I don't know why I haven't done that, but yeah, they might well end up as a pro-French because, again, we got a whole bunch of political points in our favor on that alliance display. It's very hard to create a coalition once France starts rolling, and that was the case in the old game. The new game has put some scripting in place to make that harder to happen. The one thing that might go wrong is the invasion of Russia, which is a requirement. But it's not going to happen the way it did in historically, because there's no way I'm just going to go walk to Moscow and hope for the best. That doesn't work. It didn't work historically. It doesn't work in the game. But what it means is Napoleon won't make that mistake unless he has to, because he has to have captured Moscow for one of the victory conditions. Like he has to have taken, he has to have gone to war with, and I don't know what they are specifically, but there is a reason that you might just take Moscow to try to do the holdout minor victory. But anyway, we're at an interesting point. We're not quite at the invasion of Russia, which is where I wanted to go, where I wanted to walk away, but then I decided, fuck it, I'll just do it at the start of the new year. 1810 is here. Bernadotte is available. I've made special rules so that Sweden can enter the war conceivably, but it's really going to require all the powers to be against France for that to happen. Because, again, historically, Sweden didn't enter until everybody was fighting France after, you know, the invasion of Russia and all. All right, not going to do it right now. I've got some food that I'm starting to cook. I'm loading the Axis of Evil stuff up. But, yeah, I just thought I'd give you a clue. Oh, one of the more exciting things that I found in the new game was the optional commerce rating rules. At this point, France is really unable to do anything navally anymore. The Brits have really kind of locked them out of even that. But it did knock Britain out from doing much, to be honest, and actually put them in a position where maybe they were in real trouble. The bigger thing, though, is that they can't get out of the war with America. The little break I took for the axis of evil thing, about a week or so. About the right length. If I played another scenario, it probably would have been too long. Even though I do have some regrets about packing it in. Weather, pure cold. Austrians got double production. Spaniards normal. We're on the Frenchies. I'll play with the boats and whatnot. Whether or not I should even try to break out with my boats. If it wasn't for the commerce rating, I definitely would. But if I get a commerce rater out there, it's not going to do a hell of a lot. It's not going to put me in the kind of position that I had the English in before. So the best solution may be just try to build up my navy. England's navy isn't going to get any bigger. They got all their pieces in the countermix on the board. Mine can get a lot bigger. I got basically nothing, so England's got lots of overage. I think I'm not gonna even try to leave. Of course, means that I roll my attrition roll. It's winter, man. That might cause some losses. I have no idea what the troop strengths are at this point. I forgot how fatiguing and tiresome this thing is when I'm playing it. Launching another attack up here at Königsberg. These are kind of iffy, to tell you the truth. I could end up losing troops. It might be better off just taking it next time that the Prussians leave it. And I'm going for a double doinker attack here. Let's roll that, because that's the more interesting fight. Napoleon comes in. So I'll flop all the way back over. Once again, due to the time situation, I'm choosing not to advance with Marmont, just to keep beating up the Prussians. I move in here to Grodno is what they have it as. Okay. And captured that. Barclay, I can't afford to take a siege because I don't want to lose my leader. So I had to fight the field battle. It ended up being a complete blowout. It could have been an overrun had I had the movement points with both stacks together. And then I split the forces up so that they're safe from the next turn, or safer from the next turn's attrition. But a big D3 over there. Almost had a wounding of Napoleon, actually. Looked like an 11, I think. Anyhow, I am going to break. Even though I don't think the Russians have a lot that they want to do, I'm so fatigued after moving all these French. It really is a fucking tedious process. And the hope that I have, that I'm kind of holding out on, is I'll be able to take Russia out. I really think I will. I don't remember, again, whether I finished any games of this solo before. And it's possible, again, like, I know I saw the pattern of, in the original game, that you could just keep bouncing all the other players out of the game. And that's kind of what's happening. Even though, yeah, Austria's gonna probably be able to come in before I take Russia. But again, if you're willing to take some losses back here, if you're able to sustain your supply line, say from Warsaw or whatever, I think you can just push on and, and do it. Anyway, that's my hope, because otherwise I got a long rest of the game to go. Where it's going to come down to, can France, hold Paris at the end, which is what it always came down to. I kind of have the feeling that I never really tried to knock Russia out because the costs were too high, and that I just bounced Austria, then Prussia, then Austria, then Prussia, then Austria, then Prussia, to whatever extent I had to. Once you get this in your favor and it controls, which it absolutely did in the original game, in the two-player game, you could do that forever. But in the multiplayer game, all the players were like, we got to stop France. And that meant France just kept hitting each nation one after the other, making sure that I was never facing what I actually was facing here, which was a coalition of Russia, Prussia, and Austria. The worst case scenario is, of course, you're stuck in Spain while that happens. It happened at the very end, I think, but I was so close to finishing Spain, that was an issue. England not being able to participate at all is really painful. But anyway, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I really don't want to play out the whole damn thing, which is the main reason why I'm going to invade Russia. Up here to finish things off for the turn. British Navy, I forgot to spend the point that the French get. They built a ship in Bray, so I had to go blockade that, fine. And coming out to attack the Brits isn't a great idea because then they can make multiple interception attempts. Not interception, but the movement contact attempts, whatever. And they actually are at +1, and they would probably end up lighting up that poor little French fleet. But I do want to force the Brits into a lot of blockading positions, because that's having like a large fleet blockaded in isn't as powerful towards getting out there. It might be better for other reasons, though. Anyway, attrition, we lost nothing. I made the check for the Americans. Brits aren't free. And production is, I mean, Britain's used up all their points and they can't do anything with them. They can't give them to anybody, nothing. Because their transports are all in America. So all I get is minimal Russian production. The Russian army is not big. It's spread out, but there are none of these stacks that are more than 5. And so the Russians are trying to dig in a little bit, hoping for the best. I don't know what to do, you know. Do I leave forces in the front to delay the French advance, to make them, you know, once it starts happening, to make them fall back? By the way, something I forgot to mention. I took this. Last month, that would constitute an invasion of Russia. It would cause all kind of problems. Now, I'm at, that doesn't matter. It's 25 strength points inside Russia. Or maybe the map, but I'm not, I think it's inside Russia itself. So I can actually perform some advances into Russia without, you know, I mean, I can take the city, which is kind of the big thing. And I could probably take Brest-Litovsk too. I don't know that I really want to hold this, but once you start digging in, it's kind of like, now I've got good terrain, you know. Shouldn't be able to dig it in the swamp, damn it. I don't know. Anyway, that moves forward. Get that there. We're going to break for now. I'm probably going to do a little personal video too. Okay, weather cold across the line. Austria got good production. Spain did not. I put Schwarzenberg on the map. I don't know. I mean, I could shift things around to try and create a better defensive line or whatever. But honestly, when Austria comes in, they're not going to be on the defense, right? Unless France knocks out Russia and comes back to take them out before they hit here, which isn't going to happen. Austria is going to be jumping in against France, probably. Another option might be France withholds going into Russia and smacks Austria to try to get them in Prussia and get myself a whole year. But again, I'll hit the winter. Russia's tough. Russia's tough. And it's just going to create problems. France doesn't have a lot more pieces left to put into play. They have some left to regain from Prussia. I keep taking my losses on the miners, which generally is cool because, you know, they can surrender and they're lower quality and everything. But to some extent, you have this weird kind of balancing where I only got 5 more strength points left. I gotta lose me some French units pretty soon, and I've got a lot of unbuilt miner stuff because it accumulates so slowly. I've got a fair amount of pieces, say in the German or Italian sets, and I can only take 1 out of all of those, which I don't remember playing that way. I might have. It's definitely in the old rules. That's going to put me on French Navy. Not going to do anything. The French attrition roll, which is probably pretty good. Not positive. Again, I got some big forces. I got some 10-point forces. They're not in well, one of them might be in Russia, like that 6 to 10 level. I might lose one off the Russian because I'm facing the double whammy, the winter and Russia. So I forgot to do something. I forgot to push this down here. Because Austria did surrender a second time. Okay. And we did that. Let me roll the production die roll just to see, since I'm online now. I lost like 1 strength point. I don't get much. Move forward some more. Careful to not put more than 20 strength points into Russia, i.e. I'm not attacking Brest-Litovsk. I don't really have the leadership there. By the way, French leadership is a problem, but I'm launching 1 attack on Barclay because he's demoralized. It gives me edges, you know. I don't know. And don't really want to fight these things. If I can cut their supply lines instead, that forces them out. I looked here and I'm like, oh, Messina, Lan, Sol. Now, I think Lan and Messina were both killed, or else I failed to set one of them up or something. I know I killed at least one, and they both start the game, so I'm assuming they both died. But then I'm like, whoa, what about Sol? I don't remember him. Yeah, he's captured by the Prussians, but I took Königsberg this turn, so I'm going to get him back. I took Königsberg. I'm set up in a kind of an ugly situation where I'm going to have to try to work to get guys out of Berlin and Königsberg. I don't have the leaders to do it. They don't get automatically thrown out as far as I can tell, but I have to work as hard as I can, I guess, to try to get them out. I don't know. But otherwise, we're just, you know, flowing that big force that came out of Spain just continues on. And we'll see what we can accomplish with it. We're belatedly to roll for the Spaniards to enter into the war. They did not, on France's side, of course. Barclay was destroyed. Automatic victory. If I had extra movement points, I could have overrun him. I wouldn't have had him. I never really checked that anymore. And like, I overran some Russian cav that probably could have hidden somewhere. It's really like, I try to make my decision of what I'm going to attack. Someone back here, maybe, I don't know. Oh no, Joseph did it. It was here. Okay. Or maybe here. But I think it was back here. And Prussia fell, which now puts the Prussia marker here. We're still at the same amount of points because I no longer can count Berlin. It's not opposed to me anymore. That's I'll put us on the Russian thing here. And of course, I don't know when and if. Like, them getting production is going to be kind of painful. I might have to do something like leave troops here and send Marmont back to grab Königsberg troops and move them forward. I am holding on to Breslau and Posen. Those are supply sources. If things get bad, I can fall back on them, but I have Warsaw as a supply source as well. So I don't have to have this huge line going back, and I'm picking up some of the units of that line as I move. Anyway, gonna go watch some more vids or something, I don't know. Whatever it is I do. It is a rainy Wednesday morning. Not too early, actually. I've got myself in kind of a pickle. I got myself addicted to doing something, but this is not a situation that I normally put here. Now, I came up here thinking it's the coalition turn, and I'm pretty sure it is. But normally I would have them marked over, you know, using the tweezers and the dice and everything, like I'm sure you've seen a number of times. But I'm positive nothing moved over here and that I didn't actually take the turn. So there we have that. I got to deal with Brits, don't I? Do they have a fleet they have to put in? No. So I guess we do attrition. It is still winter. I was going to walk downstairs when I thought I was at the end of a turn, or the beginning of a new turn. That's not good. I think it's fine for the Brits. They don't have any big stacks. The Russians don't either, but home country and Russia cancel each other out, so they take the winter hit. That's going to make every stack take at least one. And if they have anything bigger than a 5, they're going to take bigger losses. We're at the quick finish of the turn. There really wasn't much, but oh, I bet you this one did too. Every Russian stack lost strength points because everything was at least a 3. Everything lost 1, but this is really problematic. My army is disintegrating. Being up at the front means I'm going to be contacted, but running away fast, I just don't feel like that's particularly advantageous to me. I don't know. I don't see an answer. I really don't right now. Anyhow, we have opened up March. The weather is as bad as it can be, poor everywhere, which means it's like winter, only you can't move as far. The 3 neutrals didn't get anything special. French aren't going to move a navy, so let's roll their attrition. See what it's going to look like. That probably will hurt something. All the troops filtering up, plus the concentration that I had to create to advance into Russia. I had a lot of units lost. I lost at least 10 strength points, probably more than that. That's a big hit. You know, you're losing like, what is it? It's 5,000 strength points per man. You're losing like 50,000 strength points. So you can see the expense, and I haven't even entered Russia yet, really. I mean, barely in there. But a few bad rolls in the winter can really hit you up. Now, Napoleon had 500,000 men when he went in. Some of them were lost. Some of them were spread out as garrisons, which are problematic because they can be overrun when you're being, you know, pushed back. But we're probably looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, under these new rules, like 5 turns where maybe that 50,000 is what you have. So you're taking like 250,000 in casualties. That's why the typhus rule is right, because the attrition levels were far and away the majority of why the French army, the Grand Army, dissolved. And you're not going to always get that high, you know, that's a moderate high roll, right? In Russia, that's a bad roll. Half the time you're going to get a bad roll, half the time you're going to get an okay roll, and in the winter. So you almost need that typhus roll to have a chance of getting the kind of attrition levels you like. Now you can say, well, you're taking 50% losses from attrition, yeah, but I again think that that's still too low. It may be a little high. Once you add it in, it's kind of like some of the other things, like the when I look at the tactical matrix and say, yeah, that may be too severe a penalty, especially in conjunction with the lasting demoralization. I kind of feel like one or the other is good enough. And I'm actually pretty happy with the lasting demoralization, how that's working, especially solo. Although I do feel like there's some interesting stuff when you're playing with the tactical chits, and would be intrigued by the idea in a two-player game. I have never gotten to play this game opposed, except for on the scenario basis. I played my walkthrough history with my first wife, and I think we did a scenario of this. Anyway, we have this to roll, the production. Okay. The need for leaders to move units also impacts the attrition in an interesting sort of way. So for, if I'm close in to the enemy, I don't have tons of leaders collecting up, 4 or 5 strength points and trying to move them forward. And as more and more of the leaders are moving this way, I collect up strength points more quickly. And in this case, I ended up, with a pile of there were 4 here created last turn, there's 4 more created this turn, so now I've got a pile of 8, and I really don't have excess leaders. Some of that is that I'm missing a few leaders, right? Especially some of my best ones, which kind of blows. But, wait a minute. I thought I was down a Soul. Oh, there's my Soul. Yeah, so I actually have another leader that I could place on the board somewhere. I'll do so if I need to. But yeah, the further and further you get that your lines of supply draw out more, the more leaders you need just to shuffle units. And that increases your attrition cost. Now, the new game has a whole bunch of extra leaders, zero value unnamed leaders who the only way you get them is as replacements for injuries, as far as I can tell, because this reinforcement schedule gives you, unnamed 1-point leaders. The only way you get them is as that, but they will flood the French with especially with a lot more leaders. Some of the other countries have them too. That takes some of the pressure off, and I don't know if it makes the job easier or harder, to tell you the truth, in terms of actually playing the game. Anyway, now I move. Next turn, I'm not going to be facing winter attrition, so I feel like I can invade Russia if I so desire. Last turn I avoided doing it because I didn't want that typhus roll, but next turn should be pretty good weather. Might not be over here. It's felt hard to do the French turns recently, which is why I've been walking away after they do them. Well, it just got significantly harder because I'm back in contact with a real enemy again with the Russians that I have to try to deal with, which means I have to figure out the strategy of how I cope with that, as well as maintain the supply lines that I need when facing them. So I'm back to turning counters and all that. I'd kind of given that up, but I feel like I'm going to have to shuffle things from the back forward again first. I'm also not at all worried about anything in here right now, which means, it's really easy to make the decisions on the backfield, guys. That slow process. I wanted to point something out. I did not build my guard infantry. They're more expensive. That's not terribly a problem in the sense that, if I were getting something that was useful, The Guard are vaguely useful only because of the Imperial Guard role. The Russian Guard are almost useless. Their added morale does so little for you in this game, as opposed to the Guards in Empires in Arms, which allow you to, which will up your morale no matter what, right? Like any unit, its morale counts for the overall morale of your force. Here, they don't. And in fact, they can cause you problems where if you have, you know, as many guards as you do regular infantry, and then you have like a 1 morale unit, you end up with the 1 morale for your whole force, which just feels obscene to me. But yeah, it doesn't seem worth paying the extra cost. One of the things that's nice about paying that extra cost is you have smaller stacks to move. Might have been a wise idea because I put Sol back here. I don't know. He's more useful in the front, but I need leaders funneling troops forward. And I'm willing to kind of take the attrition to exchange for that. I'm basically out of French forces. I started taking losses on the French so that I have some more in the force pool. Anyway, yeah, back to the task. You want attacked by the French as they push forward, got to take the ports, got to take them all. And that's against Bennington here, who was unable to get entrenched, but he wanted to extend the line. He's very weak. Well, Napoleon could have had an overrun, but he didn't have enough movement points. Well, actually, he couldn't have had an overrun without Jerome in conjunction with him. But this will allow me to split my forces, use Napoleon as the backup so that the Russians can't really attack. And they probably will have to fall back. And that's making this kind of questionable. This whole sector could get cut off. Now, that's not a terrible thing. I've got supply from Brest-Litovsk. But if that supply is cut, things get uglier, and also, is this all that important a defensive position, stuff like that? I don't know. So I think I'm degrading the entire Russian position. They're going to have to fall back on Kiev, and now the Russians have hard problems ahead of them. So do the French in terms of the advancing, but this terrain is not, like it's not as bad as it should be. There's not as much forest as there should be. I don't even know if there is in the new version. I think there's a little bit more. But the big issue is I've got 3 locations that are quite spread out that I have to defend. Now for the French, they have to make their decision kind of earlier as to how to split their forces and launch at those 3 locations. Kiev I see as very important because otherwise the Russians can keep building forces and threatening my supply line. So I have to take Kiev as far as I'm concerned. As to the others, Moscow's the more important because that's vital for me to get even sort of the kind of minor victory of holding Paris at the end of the game. I remember that being the case. But then the last one is with St. Petersburg. But I have to kind of, I can focus heavily on Kiev and then count on reinforcements making it from Kiev to Moscow if I'm sending a second column that way. But that third column going up to St. Pete, that's not going to be able to get to Moscow in time if it comes down to that. Now, it's possible. Who knows what happens. But and then there's also always the possibility if the English get out of the war with America, they can actually sail in and drop some troops and cause some real problems to any kind of port garrisons here to prevent the automatic victory. Or, even back here, or in France or anything. So the fact that the Brits have no transports is actually really, really important here. It's possible the Russians could interfere with that, but St. Petersburg is, I think, vital. Well, it's vital to Russian surrender, and it's vital to I think that port victory condition. I'm going to have to look that up because there might be something tricky there where I can't make Russia surrender, i.e. take Moscow and St. Petersburg on the same turn. Like, it might be the case that I actually have to take St. Petersburg and not take Moscow if I want to win. So I got to be careful with that. But anyway, one little battle, it's an automatic D3-1 thing. It was less effort than maybe I was kind of expecting, and so I feel a little energized. So I went on to the Allied turn, and oh boy, I got the nasty. I mean, that's, you know, every stack is going to take a hit on the Russian side. And the Brits are going to take hits too. Not that that matters. They're just, you know, they can recuperate them very easily. In fact, they have their production points stocked up to 5, which, you know, whatever. Rolling the American, no, nothing happens. The production, okay, whatever. I haven't gotten to the production yet. I realize, I forgot to roll my Spaniards again to see if the French can get them under their control. That's a -2, so I need a 2 or less. Okay. Oh, I just checked the victory conditions. The French can win before Russia surrenders if they have Moscow and St. Pete at the same time, and all the port cities. But they get themselves in trouble if... I don't remember if I can do without St. Pete, is kind of the thing. If they, and that involves counting on that thing. If they hold all the ports that they hold, and, well, actually, yeah, I've got the Spanish ports garrisoned. If they hold all the ports that they hold, and they've taken all the Russian ports in Moscow, they definitely win. The question is, because you don't need Sweden, I know I checked that. The question is, what else do I need? And it's going to be hard to tell, because there's stuff like Naples that's abstracted and shit like that I just don't know what to do with. But the big question there is, if England has sea power, has their naval transports, and can drop troops anywhere, they can pretty much grab ports pretty easily. So, but if they don't, if they can't grab ports, there's no one to take the ports until Austria comes back and at the earliest, and you don't know if they can do it. So yeah. So I see a path to victory here. I'm still trying to figure. They did the British production. I'm still trying to figure out where I want to put my Russian units. Do I want to throw stuff up at Moscow? Because there's nothing in the way. But it's not like you can move particularly faster when there's nothing in the way. Yeah, you can put some speed bumps in, and they might delay the enemy for a turn or two. Maybe. Hard to tell. Right, we move forward into April, and we move these suckers up there. Just to show that. What happened? The Russians decided to pull back, but this isn't an absolutely safe thing. And some hard calls here. Pulling back out of my entrenchments, that means I don't have the defensive advantages that I had. So these things are more likely to be able to be killed, but I need something in the way, I think. I mean, it's not like there's zones or anything. It's not like I can interfere with movement, but leaving a cluster here means all these backfield French can come up and, you know, take them out at their leisure, or whatever, you know, possibly with overruns or whatever, because those aren't huge stacks of Russians. But now I don't have my defensive advantage, and Napoleon is going to beat up on poor Barclay here. These others have fallen back. I decided to abandon, not just completely abandon Brest-Litovsk, Litovsk, but to leave a garrison there. Because if I didn't, my movement would have been at best to here. Like, I couldn't get these guys out safely. I couldn't extract them. There's something of a speed bump. They're going to force a siege at the very least. But it is kind of abandoning those troops. if it is a siege, they end up as prisoners. Not that I have tons of force pull, so that's not really too big an issue. The big issue is that I'm losing these troops that I kind of need. I've decided to focus more on the defense of Kiev, but everything looks hopeless to me. Like there's not a Russian army in the French way. And again, I'm not sure how you end up with one, except by maybe not defending Prussia and Austria in that second war. Just say screw them. But I didn't do that. Anyway, up we go, my batteries. It's absolute shit weather again. Poor weather in April across the board. That's unlikely, I would think. You know, the normal is like, there's just 4 winter months. And that's going to affect, you know, the flow of the game and everything. But now, you've got like a 50-50 chance of bad weather. You know? I mean, wet isn't great either, but this is the worst. Now, I noticed I fucked something up, and I don't know what to do about it. I left these garrisons here in Berlin and Königsberg. I don't have a leader who could do anything. What it would have meant is Marmont, instead of going 1-2, would have gone 1-2. So he's here. Let's put that in there. And now this one, I don't remember where the fuck Joseph was. If I look at his troops, I might know. He was coming from back here somewhere. Probably here. So what I have to do to legitimately operate him, let's put this here. Let's move these cav off him. Leave these forces just lying out here and instead run up to Berlin so that I can get him out this next turn. I'm trying to figure out some way of fixing it, but this is the best I can think of because I just don't have the leaders around that I could suck those guys out. I don't think that, let me make sure, I don't think that there's something, it would have to be in the original rules, because I don't have, I mean, I have them, I can access them online, but they're pretty much the same if I recall correctly. As to what happens if the capital is controlled by an opposing faction. These rules are such a fucking massive text that I can't really find things quickly, so I'm going to cut off and see if I can find it. But I think you're just supposed to move units as normal, that nothing else happens. The wording is, note, units of the conquering faction must immediately vacate the conquered states' capitals on the first possible movement phase. I couldn't have done it Berlin last turn. This is important because I've got production coming in, but I'm only going to get a couple of landwehr up in Königsberg. So France got a crappy attrition roll. I forgot to check for typhus, but I checked my forces, and I actually only have either 21 or 23 strength points in Russia right now. I would have had more if Marmont was in there. It would have been an invasion at that point. It's not yet, so I don't have to make that check. But that 4 is going to be painful. Got into a problem with one of the biggest counter mixes, well, probably the biggest counter mix in the game, the French. I have lost, I lost something else as well, so I could actually, if I could remember what it was, take that back. But I was supposed to lose 1 French infantry from this stack. Here's the problem. When you're at 6 units, 6 strength points, you can get a 2 result where you would get a 0 with 5 strength points. I don't like that. But that's essentially what happened. And it happened in a number of places. It actually hit Marmont in a nasty way, killed a calf that it wouldn't have. But anyway, I have a 5 there. I have 3 1s there. I have no 2s left, I think. That might be one. I have no, they should be over here now, but it's possible I had some back here. I have no 2s left. I have 3 in there, so I could, if I lost, if I had 1 more in there, I could make change back. And I have 4 in here, not enough to make the 5. I've got no way to make this change. It fucking sucks. I think I'm gonna, I don't know. I think I'm gonna lose 2 French units and try to grab something else back. Probably, I think the Württemberg was what I had there. Not positive. But it's just really obnoxious, the countermix issues. Now, this is with the original game. There were different kinds of issues that happened with the new version because the 1s and 2s are back printed, which means that you might have more flexibility somewhere, but it's like it caused different issues. But neither game has sufficient manpower, sufficient countermix to handle what's going on. Obviously, you can fake stuff, but it just sucks, And it's because there's so many reasons that you have to leave single units places. There's so many reasons that you have like a combination of lots of, minor strength points in a force. So you've got to make sure, I don't know. It's just a lot of places where you're using these 1s and or 2s, and I'm out of them. It doesn't look like I'm particularly swollen with units. Now, I'm guessing it probably doesn't happen very often except in the campaign game, but it's pissing me off. After that fix, well, now I've got a 5 in here. I can't do my builds. I got a singular build. I can't do it. Now, I can because I have, fucking garbage that I don't want to build, like guards units. Could just exchange like infantry for guards here and there. Probably wouldn't make much difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a guard, put that here, and take a cav to give me, because it doesn't make much sense for me to move 2 strength points. But I'm losing a couple of strength points because of this. The cav isn't bad. The guards are fucking useless though, pretty much. All right, time to move, I guess. I'm just both versions just don't have enough counters to support what they have. That's one nice thing about games that have named units or whatever, for whatever it's worth. They've got to give you all the units you need when you have change like this. But it just feels like there wasn't enough attention to it, especially since there are like minor countries that have too many counters of certain types. Now, and then in this one, it's more confusing because of the double-sided counters. It's not as clear that like, oh, you would need that many. But again, it just doesn't quite work. So have an absolute mess with the French. This is pissing me off. It's late. It's late in, it's early morning, but like around 4 a.m. or so on Thursday. And I'm like, came up considering, last turn wasn't so bad, but now I've got the mess of the supply lines to deal with. Because my supply comes out of Moscow, basically, Warsaw, basically, and I've got like a unit in Grodno. I've got plenty of supply getting me there, but what I have to do is be really careful, and because of the fucking rivers, and the fact that they're in the middle of the hex, and that just makes it harder. You know, if I had one here, that would be a good location. But otherwise, it's like I can get one to here. I can't get to here. But I could get to Brest-Litovsk once I take that, and that would get me to Grodno. You know, it's like I just have to look at things and position them properly all over the place, and it's just fucking annoying. I hate the supply system in this game. It was not as bad, I think, on the other map, but with the rivers in this one, it just gets much, much more annoying. And, you know, honestly, I'm beginning to feel like this isn't that much, this isn't giving me anything better than Nations in Arms was giving me. It's a little less obnoxious with the old components, but not maybe about the same. I don't know, maybe a little less with the new ones too, I don't know. But it's just really not a lot of fun here. I lied. Even though Brest-Litovsk is a city, it is still on a fucking river, so it's not going to get me to here. I'm going to have to put another unit somewhere. I may leave one. I just threw something from Bernadotte. Like, I can either leave one there, or I could leave one here. Either one sucks. I don't know. And this is the thing, I gotta leave all kind of fucking ones everywhere. But the big deal is I can get from Warsaw to Brest-Litovsk without having to use another unit. But I have to use another one to get me to Grodno. It's so annoying. And I think the distances were a little better in Nations in Arms. I think they were like 4 hexes. But the problem with Nations in Arms was if you had an army, which you mainly wanted to have, you couldn't trace supply through an army unless there was a depot there. But regular infantry units could serve to trace supply through. What the hell? That game was just like underdeveloped. As I'm in the midst of moving, I start noticing flaws. Things I've already moved that maybe needed to drop stuff off. But for example, if I want to get to Posen to Thorn, I need to put a unit in one of these spaces just to get to there. Now, conceivably, I could work my way up from Warsaw instead. That's probably okay. But I'm going to have to remember to drop someone off here. Before I had enough mess that I had things covered, but now as the mess starts moving the direction I've wanted it to move, it's no longer giving me that automatic coverage. And the problem is, you know, I've got a lot of mess on the board. It looks like things are solid. And, you know, I move the infantry first, and then I move the cav in the area. And after I move the cav, I'm like, oh, fuck, I just left a hole. I no longer have supply where I want it. It's especially bad. Like Ney, he might have wanted to drop one off. Well, he's got a 5-point counter. I only have 4 points in there that I can exchange. I got a 2-back in there, but that doesn't really help me necessarily. I've got to have 5 points in there to be able to exchange these 5s. And it's just so likely that you're going to fall apart and end up taxing the counter mix as well. And you're working on that in your head at the same damn time that you're trying to do all this trace these supply lines and fucking shit. After quite a bit of work, I've gotten all the backfield stuff moved, I think. But now I come back and I have to concentrate on, well, what can I do up here with Napoleon, etc.? What do I want to do? You know, I think I want to rush for Moscow, but it won't take me a lot of troops, honestly. 2 attacks, one on Brest-Litovsk and one up here against Barclay de Tolly. I'm going for a dinker-doinker. which I get. The battle over here wasn't an automatic, but it was a big 2-to-1 with the Boinker Doinker bonus. I'm at like +2. But Napoleon got the double sixes. Now, in the original game, Napoleon could die from this. He's not allowed to in this one. I'm not sure which way I want to go if he does, but let's just... Okay, he's out for a turn. I don't have any leaders I can take. So his forces are off here. They were supposed to be my reinforcements. I don't have subordinates and stuff like that. I'm out of 0 leaders. It could be, you know, I wouldn't have minded if the other one gave me more zeros, although that may make your maintaining supply lines too easy. Anyway, then we've got this, which is probably just going to be a siege, I think. The cool thing about this is it allows me to place Napoleon damn near anywhere where he couldn't move that quickly otherwise. It's kind of cool when you get wounded on a 1 turn, you could go anywhere. Of course, he wants to be in the front because we're trying to destroy Russia. I went with the siege because I couldn't get the I couldn't get 2-to-1, and I'm like, 3-to-2 at +1, fuck that. I'll capture some Russians. That isn't bad either. And that is going to put me on the Allies. I'm going to just do them, even though I'm low on battery. So we'll roll the attrition. Remember, it's terrible weather. That's one helpful thing about doing it all at once. That shouldn't be too bad. Again, forgot to do the diplomacy roll, both for France getting on Spain, which they succeeded in. So we moved that over to the pro-French, and I actually get to do the Spanish in with their turn. So they get an extra production. But also the English, which didn't get me anything. It means I get to do a naval phase. The Brits had to blockade Cadiz now. And yeah, I didn't get a lot of production. Anyway, the Brits got their production, but I didn't get a lot of production anywhere else. And I'm just going to be pulling the Ruskies back. This is end of turn in May, falling back on Kiev with a lot of leaders, not a lot of troops. Even less stuff in Moscow, but it's a longer distance away. I could just abandon Kiev, but it's like, yeah, but that gives them my production city really, really cheap and free. And I've got to worry about St. Pete too, even though that's a long walk. Uh-oh, battery's out, and we are, I think, done for the night at this point. I was up here, and it's Thursday, I was up here during the very wee hours of the morning, whatever, before dawn. I actually, almost at dawn. But now I'm up here, and it's almost Friday. The reason why such a delay? Well, I went shopping. Yay! And bought myself lots of treats. Also found interesting things. But like one of the treats was something that my store wasn't carrying for a long time, which is pastrami. You know, okay, I understand it won't be in the already sliced stuff and whatnot, but the deli never had any. It never had pastrami. It never had corned beef. I would have gone with either of those many, many times. It's expensive as hell, but yeah, that's something that just feels so weird to not be there. But I got ice cream. I got multiple kinds of chocolate, but I also got regular food and stuff as well. My cart was a heavy pull today. Let's just put it that way. Last week, I went without milk. Last time I went, which is almost 2 weeks ago. Very, very short turnaround time. I went without milk because I was worried that the cart would be hard to pull. And it ended up fine. But this time, because I didn't really need much, or I thought I didn't need much, I ended up getting lots and lots of stuff. And not only did I get milk, but I got like a gallon of vinegar that is something I'm running low on. And whenever I'm like I never want to run out of anything. Anyway, over here on the game, we had normal weather this turn, and Austria and Prussia got normal production. The attrition roll for the French is, that's one I'm going to have to check. But I got Napoleon, I can bring him back anywhere I like, pretty much. I probably want him spearheading this attack, but whatever. And let's get going, I guess. Just to clarify, I mean, shopping doesn't take me all day. It did take about 3 hours total. I'm not sure why. I took my time on the way home, even though I had ice cream. It was chilly enough that it wasn't a big deal and packed away. And it was a hard pull. Like, the cart was heavier, and there is still some rubbing on the tire, which I'm not going to try to correct. I'm just going to say, fuck it, that's life. But also, I got some of the effects that I had when I was getting a lot of long COVID effects. One, I just chalk up to I'm not in good shape right now. I'm not used to pulling so heavy a cart. You know, I've been sick, whatever, which is that, yeah, although while I was in the midst of these sicknesses, I wasn't getting short of breath. I kind of did today, but I mean, it's understandable. It's a heavy pull and whatnot, just like it was during COVID, well, you know, and other times, but when I had to haul food for both my wife and I every couple of weeks. But the other is much more odd and indicative to COVID. My sense of taste is fine. That never went away, which is the tingling in my hands. I get that when I go dancing still. So like it's constantly like this weird thing that's happened since then. But this was the first time I can remember it happening. I mean, it's kind of like a pins and needles type effect or whatever. But yeah, and it was really strong. I took anyway, most of the time that I spent, I've been online and whatnot because I've been too tired to want to do anything. And I'm like, instead of taking a nap or whatever, well, I'm up here anyhow. All right, let's get back to the business at hand. A couple of strength points that had to be on the 6 to 10 column, and most of these stacks are not. It's the 3 to 5 column, I don't mind putting things on that. The 6 to 10 is too risky, especially since it can cause cav losses, which feel especially painful. One thing I wanted to note, though, even though I didn't lose a lot this turn, the winter has cost me. I was down almost out of force pool. Now I've got like 18 there. But that gives me the chance for the production. Ooh, I forgot about Spain. I own them now. So I get bonus production with the French. That'll eat up a lot of that. I had actually taken a Württemberg loss when I could have taken a French unit loss because I was kind of like, wow, that I'm actually taking enough losses that maybe I want maybe I want to take minors instead. Move in the complex stance to try to keep things in supply and whatnot. One thing that I tend to do is I tend to use minors as garrisons because I want my good morale stuff. Now, obviously, it's not optimal to just go with that as a rule of thumb, but I do. The reason it's not optimal is that what I really want is a mix of forces up at the front, and you know, to take losses sometimes on the minors, so that, you know, because they reproduce quicker or closer to the border, possibly all kind of stuff like that. But the problem is you can get yourself in trouble that way. You can end up with equal numbers of each, and then the crappy stuff counts. But there is a disadvantage to using the minors this way, straight up. It's something that I just sort of thought about, which is if somebody, like this is a Neapolitan, if somebody goes and captures Naples, like say the Brits, then that's going to either go away or it's going to become a British militia or whatever, which means that my supply line no longer exists. That's a danger that doesn't happen with France. Like if France surrenders, I'm out of, I'm out of the battlefield, right? My whole force, I'm probably neutral, and I won't be pro-French anymore, and I won't even be taking attrition anymore. I'll just be making the long walk home absolutely safe at that point. Anyway, it is a bit of a problem, but the rule of thumb makes things so much easier than leaving, trying to keep a balance up there and everything. I don't know. It's just not worth the effort. Only one battle out of it. I'm hitting Barclay again here. He's got a choice again. He could fall into the city, avoid the losses, but honestly, if this were an Empires in Arms type game, where I want to preserve my army or whatever, well, there's two things in Empires in Arms. One, your surrendered units come back to you as real units. They don't just come back as force pool, which kind of doesn't make sense. Like, I've gone into this before. Oh, look, you're dead. That means I can, muster more men from back home. Oh, look, you were captured. That means you don't exist anymore. Like, in order to get those men back at home that I could remuster, I have to get you back from the captured pool. It's just weird. Anyway, let's take a look. So I got a double doinker attack trying here. We can make a quick roll. Again, I'm going to try to bring Napoleon into that, which I only need a 5 for it. Yeah, it happens. I might want to leave a strength point here, just bopping around, because that's not a bad place in my supply chain. Although Smolensk is a good place too, so fuck that. If he withdraws, so here's the thing: if he withdraws into the city, what we end up seeing is the game is over basically if Russia surrenders. If Russia doesn't surrender, I will never get the troops back that I put in there. So it's plus Barclay is a good leader. I don't want him in the prisoner pool. So all kind of weird decision making is going into this that feels funky in a lot of ways. And then of course I have this siege still going on. Sending a significant force down towards Kiev. Again, that can move up towards Moscow. Marmont does not have a lot, and that's a bit of a problem. He does not have many troops at all, and that means, if forces, first of all, there is a unit in St. Petersburg, but if forces start building up in St. Petersburg, I can't take it with him. So I'm diverting, like Sul, Davout, Ney, are all heading in that direction. There's some flexibility still as to what I do at this point. But yeah. They're checking what's happening. Barclay automatically loses. I didn't need that double blinker or whatever. On the Russian side, they continue to flee. I actually dug in here. Why? I don't know. Because I had enough troops sitting there that I can, and it somewhat supports Kiev. I mean, none of these forces is big enough to handle a third of the Russian army, is the real problem, or of the French army, which is the real problem. But next turn, Austria gets to come in. Do they want to throw themselves in the way to try to save this? I don't know. You know what I forgot? I forgot the British check. Still nothing. If the Brits don't come in, I think this is just over. If they don't come in real soon, basically. Austria can throw a thorn in the French side. Is that enough? I don't know. I doubt it. I doubt it. I think there's enough French to kind of contain the Austrians, because the Austrian army is really weak right now. It has taken a fair amount of losses. You can see. It is relatively large, though. So I think they're going to have to come in just to try to prevent, because I don't see Russia surviving this without them throwing themselves in. Of course, the danger is Austria's lost two wars. They lose a third one, and I don't think they can win anymore, except by sort of those sudden, like the end of campaign. They might still be able to win due to that, but they don't have like the I won because I match all these things. And by end of campaign, those are end of campaign too. I don't know. Like I cannot keep the complexity of these victory conditions in my head at all. But what I do know is that Austria doesn't want to lose a third war. Prussia doesn't want to lose 3 wars. Russia doesn't want to lose a war. Well, Britain obviously is fucked, but I don't know why we have a number here for Spain. I guess I should probably put a marker there to indicate that they lost a war. Without it, conceivably I might forget that they lost the war, and the factor is that there's no diplomatic roles on Spain if they didn't lose a war. They just stay pro-British after the invasion. Up here again, by the way, I may be mistaken about something. It may be that, I want to see what the order is on this. I'm thinking that if you're neutral and you declare war, your turn ends, and then you wait till you get to the other turn. That's not how I've been playing it, but I'm looking to see if that's the intention. No, alliance is the last thing, so you get your neutral turn. This is important because it allows you to place things and get into position. Anyway, Austria, this is their turn when they could enter the war. I don't know if I'm going to or not. I got increased production. It's high summer, June, July, August. There's no chance of anything but fair weather. I got increased production with them. I'm not sure. There's sort of the, hey, let the French go a little bit further. Let them push on further. Let more of their leaders go into Russia, whatever. Because they could pivot and hit me. But on the other hand, if they take Russia out, even if I'm returned, first of all, they might win just from that. But also, if I'm not diverting their forces, right, they're more likely to be able to take Russia out. And once they take Russia out, they can probably crush me. Although, who knows, the walk back might be very painful. But they're likely to win if they take Russia out, simply because it's got to do with the port cities. And Austria is not, I mean, maybe I can take Trieste, but again, I don't know how many port cities it is. Nations in arms, it has to be all of them. Maybe I'd better try to make a count and see what fits. There's going to have to be some translation because this map has less ports than that one does. Of course is, and why I haven't done this yet, I have to figure out how to unfold these maps without disturbing what's on them. I might be able to do that. I'm not sure. Do that translation process. I don't think there are any ports over here, but they wouldn't matter anyway. I can't conquer them if they are. Can't conquer Malta either, but I did count that. All right, so I was able to fold the maps, just had to move the Brits off their box there so that I could peek under. And I came to a total of 37 ports on the west map, 11 on the east map. So there's 48 total. Now, what did I say? Fuck. 35. which means there's like 13 extra over on this map. Now I'm going to count this map and see how many port cities I have on this map and make some kind of equivalence and figure out what the number should be. So there are 42 on this map. Again, I don't know what this means. Like, I can't just take 6 off and make that. But if there are 42 on this map, let's see what I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those easily. 8 off puts me to 34, which is a problem. Now, I want to look at this one. I've got 48 on this. There's one I can't get. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Eight. So I'd say there's 8 that I can't get out of this 48. So this is going to be 48 over 40, say. What did I don't remember what I counted that I couldn't get on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this would be 42 out of 35. Okay. Now, obviously, if I get all of them, I'm okay. But here, I'm allowed to miss something like 5 of them. So I don't even know if I have to make it. Like, if I were able to miss 5 of these ports, there are some others. No, I'm okay with that. If I'm able to miss 5 of them, that's 1 for St. Pete. Maybe France won historically. No, they didn't have Spain. 2, 3, 4, 5. That one doesn't count. That one I already did. So, if I'm allowed to miss 5 of these, I don't have to take any of this up here. Is what it kind of comes down to. And I don't think I even need the Prussian stuff. So honestly, I think if I take Moscow, that's good enough. I'm still aiming for this more significant attack because one thing that I might be able to do is knock Russia out of the war for a year, for whatever that's worth. I don't know what it's worth because they still get to rebuild and everything, right? But I could hold Kiev. And I think it is possible for me to actually knock Russia out. Given all that, I think the Austrians have to enter the war this turn. May make me shift my axis with the French, like, for example, falling back from here to help deal with the Austrians, with the nearest forces around Brest-Litovsk here, and push as far as I can on Moscow. Go for St. Pete too, because that can cause surrender of Russia. Surrender of Russia is bad for one reason. I won't be allowed to occupy St. Petersburg anymore, but the numbers I calculated, I don't think I have to. And I'm capturing, the interim spaces. That means that even if the Brits come in, they probably can't knock out enough cities. So it's really up to Austria to try to divert things. I think we're close to the end here. And what it all comes down to is, having been able to defeat Spain, now I can devote my entire force. If I don't break Spain, I've got to play it out to 1815. I can't get this auto victory. Because, well, probably, because I need to have Lisbon as one of the ports. Plus, Spain has a lot of ports. And Spain is no threat to me again, unless things change significantly here. And the fact that Spain is relatively possible to take out, unless I'm fucking something up in the rules completely. I honestly don't see how France can lose, at least under the way I'm playing this. I wanted to check, because I could have seen this having a significant effect on the conquest of Spain, was if Spain could not have conquered Portugal. That was a key element, okay? There's special rules for Austria, Prussia, and Russia. It says whenever they're pro-French, the French may not move any ground or naval units unless it's part of a pro-French expeditionary force or the state's been invaded by anti. There's no such rule for Spain that I see here. And in the old game, where Spain was a major power, they would go grab Portugal on their own. They would take it from Britain the same way that I took it in this game. There's nothing really to stop them. I guess Britain could conceivably try to throw all their force into that, but the problem is they really need to use their replacements and whatnot with their navies. It felt like kind of a losing cause. They don't have good leaders and whatnot. Conceivably, French forces, at least a small amount, could go into help. Why is knocking Portugal out important? Because Portugal has a transport ship. The thing that's keeping England from being able to do a damn thing is that their only transport ships are dealing with the U.S. Now, if the U.S. war hadn't happened yet, and it's not even 1812 yet, but it's so fucking likely it's going to happen earlier. The other thing is, it's likely to last about 3 years, right? That's fine. The actual war lasted about that long, but how early it happens and is likely to happen is, pretty much a problem, because it's kept the Brits from being able to do anything for a large period of the game. Now, what's really fucked up is that during the War of 1812, British forces were being moved into Portugal, probably not just by the one Portuguese transport ship, but the game only gives the Brits 2 transports, and they never get any more. I don't know, but that's one of the things that's handcuffing me. Yeah. Anyway, I've shifted my Austrians forward. I'm holding a line here. This is actually kind of illegal, but it is because I only had 1 strength point in there. But that's why I don't have more fortifications, to be honest. And that'll put me on the French attrition roll. I was just, hoping that maybe there was something that prohibited Spain from going and conquering Portugal that was similar to the Russia, Prussia, Austria rolls, because that was the only thing that could have helped Spain during their war. And we get a pretty nasty attrition roll. That is going to hit larger stacks that the French have. The way the turn order goes, and this kind of makes sense historically if you think about how Napoleon reacted, especially in the 1805 campaign. Austria declared war, but they did it after they moved, so they weren't able to do any combat. They were in their neutral phase. They get another turn, but the French get an opportunity to smack into them, and that's going to be an issue. My French production was singular. I need to put some additional forces on the board here at Strasbourg, I guess. But I got the minors placed. I'm always forgetting the French. I end up doing it, but I forget to put them out. One more thing. We're beginning to deplete the French force pool, countermix, not the force pool. Force pool is actually kind of healthy. But, you know, again, the attrition and whatnot, I've got a few extra pieces still out there, but I'm getting close to the point where the countermix limitations are going to start causing problems again. Here I'm in a position where I'm fucked. This guy was here. I'll leave him there. I wanted to move him here. That puts me out of supply from all directions. That's a 10-point force. Got a pair of 5s in there. I don't have breakdown units. I only have 4 in there. I got no deuces. I don't have any stacks of 5 that are like 2s and 1s. I can't leave the depot that I need to. I can't leave the unit there to trace my supply from. So I don't know what the fuck to do. You know, maybe I can use a cav or something to trace the supply, but I just don't have the breakdown units. Now, I guess I could say, well, that's not intended. I should be able to dig into the other. But yeah, I mean, it's just, there's a problem with the countermix in both games, honestly. I got to swap batteries. This is a hairy turn. I'm in this kind of weird situation where I'm like defending against the Austrian, or I'm moving units to face the Austrians. The Austrians maybe can't stop me from winning, right? I just have to get to Moscow to win the game as far as I'm concerned. There are a couple of ports I don't own. I own Hanover, so I've got these. But I don't have Swedish Pomerania. I don't have Stettin right now. But I think by the balances I looked at, that's still sufficient. It's just, it is a little bit closer. So like taking something like Dalmatia might be enough to stop me. Outside of Dalmatia and maybe Venice, there's almost nothing the Austrians can do. And they have the problem of they can't be forced to surrender. If they're forced to surrender, then they're not a threat at all. So I have to defend Vienna, Budapest, and I have to take probably both Venice and Trieste to stop things. I'm not sure, because again, I'm kind of fudging the numbers here, right? This was 5 missing. Right now I've got 1, 2, 3 missing. Yeah, maybe Trieste is enough, or maybe Venice alone is enough, or whatever. But the Austrians have to take something in addition to holding what they've got. And that wasn't absolutely clear to me when I was positioning my Austrians. Anyway, back to moving my units. And again, this is a really hairy turn. So I think I've got what I've fixed on. The French aren't attacking anywhere except for the siege of Brest-Litovsk, which is kind of unimportant, but it makes it a useful supply location. My tilts are to show what moved and what didn't, right? Napoleon does not have a very big force. He only has 5 strength points. Tormazov here has that many strength points plus whatever he gets for reserves this turn. But I have Jerome back here with a couple more strength points. I have a lot of cav coming up to support me. I do have some forces here, I think, in here heading my way. And I haven't decided on Ney yet. What's he got? He's got force. And I've got Ney and Marat ferrying troops forward as well. Joseph, who should be like ruling in Spain, as far as I can tell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to there. I have a fair amount of troops, enough that Austria can't ignore defending that. And again, it's not clear to me how many cities exactly I can lose with this. At Trieste, I definitely would have to lose, because right now I'm down 2, 3, that would be 4. That sounds right. No, right? No, it's 4 is what I'm allowed to lose. So yeah, it's going to be Venice and Trieste that have to fall. Now, on the bright side, there's not a lot defending back here. So if I had started on my way there already, that would have been kind of helpful. Let's roll my siege there. And it falls. Coalition gets a nasty supply roll. Oh, let me check those Brits. At least I don't have to check France anymore. I'm always remembering when I check the Brits. That's not going to hurt Russia, I think, although maybe I have a big stack. I don't know. If I have a 6-point stack, it will hurt them. But Austria has 10-point stacks, I'm pretty sure. I get to the production for Russia and Austria. I decided I'd peek at the original game's victory conditions. These were always problematic. It feels like a great deal of effort was put in with the scripting and everything to prevent the same kind of problems from occurring in this version. Maybe version 7 is better, I don't know. But as we can see, I'm not convinced, I feel like France has a significant advantage here. Oh, he ran back, okay. Under the original, there are 2 automatic victory conditions, one of which is the French have strength points in Paris at the end of 1815, or whenever the game ends. The original game could end due to Napoleon coming back, and I think that's the same in the new version, or if Napoleon died. And in either case, there's basically a year after Napoleon is defeated and exiled, or he dies. But the other is all major states except England are neutral or pro-French at the end of any turn. Now in the 2-player game, because there's no Treaty of Tilsit and all these kind of scripting type limitations on when people can declare war or whatever, in the 2-player game, that's really easy. You start off with France in your favor, you defeat Austria, you've knocked the Western or the coalition side to like 2 points. They're not going to have any of these minor states connections at that point. And that means Prussia's never going to enter the war because it doesn't have these scriptings that force them to enter no matter what in the 2-player game. And Russia, you can start, once you beat Austria, you can start beating Austria. You can start rolling on the diplomacy on Russia and neutralize them and even bring them in on your side. I don't remember if there was the same you can't move forces for Austria, Russia, and Prussia. Maybe, maybe not. I just don't recall that. I've never played the 2-player game. In the multiplayer game, it's harder because you can't knock Russia out. Like, you can't take them out with the diplomacy. Just like in this multiplayer, I can't take out Russia, Austria, Prussia. It's a weird situation because the game is almost trivial to win in the 2-player game. But in this case, we're seeing that, as long as you can take out Spain, and this is the thing, Spain will never go anti-French in the original version because there's no reason that you have to go into Spain. There's no restrictions on that victory conditions. I don't have to conquer Spain. I don't have to conquer Russia. all I have to do is maintain my advantage on the alliance display. So that's something that this version has improved, but it still isn't enough to solve the great problem of the campaign game just doesn't work in 2 players, which it almost feels like it is a 2-player game in a lot of ways, with all that, alliance rolling and whatnot. Whereas the multiplayer game, there's something that feels a little freewheeling about this multiplayer game, but at some point or another, everybody has to move against France. And as long as France is willing to be aggressive and smack people around one after the other, I think they can win the multiplayer game in either version. But you could end up in the situation where Spain is like, oh, I'm the last person, I'm allied with France. Conceivably, France could push them out of the alliance if that rule is in the original. I, again, don't remember that there. But it definitely feels to me like all that scripting effort doesn't really help. It certainly doesn't. It certainly, yeah. I mean, the 2-player game is still harder because the alliance table comes into play in some limited cases. But the truth of the matter is, it just doesn't matter. You can just keep beating everybody up. And quite simply, I mean, Russia is crackable, And even when they're fighting on the home territory and everything, they're still suffering harsher attrition. Sure, France is too, but France has a bonus everywhere. Russia has a bonus in their home country. It evens out. And France just has more troops. So if they can get this window where they've knocked Austria and Prussia out, the big question still is Spain. But, yeah. Whenever I played the full 6-player game, Spain usually took Portugal, because that gives them 2 production cities, and the way the victory conditions work on that, well, I don't think that's actually the case. It's the most production cities in this, which is exactly the same as in the version 6, which means Spain can't win. I mean, they're not going to get enough production cities to match. Like, they have 1. Let's say they conquer Portugal and say 4 French cities. That gives them 6. Look, Austria starts with 4, and has lots of meaty, tasty little places. It's almost impossible for Spain to win by a direct value. So what I did was a proportion of your cities. Spain could get twice as many by taking Portugal, but they could get many multiples if they managed to conquer French territory, which makes them kind of interesting. Now, they have crappy-ass troops, but the problem is, like, they don't have a big army, and it's not high quality, is what I mean. So, like, Austria and Prussia have at least reasonably sized armies. But if you look at the historical situation, France didn't defend this very heavily. And maybe they don't want to, because all they have to do is hold Paris. Somebody has to take Paris for those victory conditions to apply. Now, and the craziest thing is, if you defeat France and a year goes by and there's a 1-year limit on when somebody can declare war on them again, and the game ends after a year goes by, France automatically wins, which was another completely fucked up thing in it. I don't know if that applies, because the Napoleon getting killed was sort of a special rule. It's an optional rule or something like that, I think. Maybe it's his his exile that's an optional rule. But either way, either one can generate this situation where nobody can declare war on France and nobody can occupy Paris, and therefore France wins by losing the Napoleonic Wars, which always felt stupid. So I think I had some kind of workaround where like France can't win under those circumstances. But again, it's just like the original was so flawed. This one's trying to fix it, but it's just, you know, putting Band-Aids on something that's that needs a tourniquet, honestly. Yeah, the Austrians lost a fair amount of their units. They had a lot of things in that 6 to 10 range, and then production was not impressive. The big issue here is, what can I do with the Austrians to line up defenses that'll work, and it's pretty hard to do, and still send somebody down to go take Trieste and Venice. And the coalition turn was easier than I expected. Russia's falling back on Moscow. I'm leaving Constantine back here at Kiev with a couple of strength points. That's enough to make it hard for France to just go march in and take it, because although I could force march to there, but the key is I can generate troops there, so it becomes riskier. Otherwise, you know, if I abandoned it, like a cav could go down there, right? I wouldn't even need to use a leader. And over here, the Austrians are trying to form a defensive line. Mac moving up here because there's some threat there. This is all the make sure Austria doesn't surrender while Ferdinand makes the long march. I don't think Austria is going to fall. I think Russia is the one that's going to fall before Austria does. But before Ferdinand can make it even across there, it's such a long walk. Had I started, you know, had I grabbed another 4 movement points or whatever, that would have put me within range where I'm like, yeah, maybe Austria can take those in time. Whew. All right. That puts me into July. Only Prussia is neutral now, and that's it for tonight. It's probably about 6 a.m. now. Getting about time for me to go to sleep. It is Friday, so it's like, yeah, I know I have to go dancing and whatnot. So I'm kind of cool with being up this late. In fact, I didn't take a nap in particular because I wanted to make it out to this time. I know I have so many yummies, but it's like, I had a pastrami sandwich today. It's such a fucking treat. Like, it's been such a long time. But yeah, I mean, the price was ridiculously high. Still a lot less than like ordering it at a deli or something, but the price for pastrami was just like, I don't know. It's one reason I go for the packaged lunch meat, is it just is cheaper than getting cuts. But one nice thing about pastrami is it's strong enough. Like, I want it to be good, right? But it's strong enough that like one they're not terribly thin slices that I got. One slice kind of folded over is a pretty good sandwich. Like, I'm okay with less meat when I'm just, you know, using the cheap shit. But like, if I had ham, I feel like I would have wanted more thickness just to get the flavor going. But my cheap ham, I actually go with less because, I don't know. It's good enough. I found some things on my walk from shopping. One of which, there was like a box of stuff. one of which was this tarot deck. I picked it up because, I don't know, my past wife had, well, still has, I guess it's mine now, but a whole collection of tarot decks. She wanted to sell a couple of them that I was like, oh, I like this one, I like this one. I don't know, I just grabbed this one as well, but hers are all downstairs. But I also found a couple of other things. I don't know, can't really see them here. It's like a bag of shit down there, weird glass and stones and stuff, and then a trowel and a sheath. I thought it was a sheath knife, and I'm like, whoa. But I picked up the sheath. I picked up the trowel. I'm like, I don't have one of these. I should have one. Then I also grabbed the other thing. I was considering it, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But then I thought, the person I share a birthday with, she might be interested in both of these things. So I grabbed the bag of stuff. She does art stuff, and it's not really the kind of stuff she usually makes her artwork out of, but maybe she's interested. The bag of, glass and rocks and stuff. And if she doesn't want it, maybe I'll do something with it. I don't know what. But the other side of it is the trowel. I'm like, yeah, I know she does like close-in gardening stuff that I really don't do, which is why I was questioning, why do I have this trowel? It has some interesting things on it, though. It has like a kind of a sawtooth blade that it'll be good for cutting through, roots and stuff like that. It's an interesting trowel, so maybe I'll keep that. But I don't know. I'm just kind of like, that's really kind of a weird combination of things that I found. And there was more in there. I don't remember what else I was thinking about. There were some like containers that, had sorting capabilities and whatnot, but I don't really, other people use stuff like that for games. I really don't, and my cart was quite full. Here it is, Friday, about 2 p.m. I'm gonna go back to sleep. I've been up for a couple hours. Not up here to play the game. I'm up here actually to kind of give a slice of how my fucking brain works. I was downstairs and I realized I said something wrong yesterday. Now, something you don't care about, right? Something that, but I feel like I need to correct it. It's almost like this pathological sense here. What I said was, it hadn't been quite 2 weeks since I went shopping. The truth of the matter is, 2 weeks ago, yesterday, is exactly the same, is exactly when I went shopping. It was precisely 2 weeks. And, but my thinking had been along it's earlier than 2 weeks, because I was trying to convince myself to go shopping earlier. But I didn't. By the way, those cobwebs up there, they are why that fan no longer works. Not those particular cobwebs, but the first year I was here, cobwebs started forming. I cleaned them, and I accidentally must have pulled that chain or something. And I got no idea how to pull it again. But anyway, it's like the point with like how my psyche works or whatever is this, oh my God, I misled people. And it has absolutely no effect. But as soon as I realize it, I feel like I have to correct things. Back to sleep ended up a little bit less of a nap than I had hoped for. And about an hour, I fucked around online, obviously. About an hour before I have to seriously get ready. I don't know, I probably should be, but... and I'm up here because I want to play a little bit, get a little bit more in. I'm almost through this 1810 turn or year, and I think the game's going to be decided by then. So even though I think I was a little wordy at times, as I always am, but I used up a lot of the video. I think I'm just going to keep going because I think this is going to be the last one. So, yeah, I don't know. I do have to be careful about Austria, though. Moderate French attrition, that is going to cause some damage. Anything 6 to 10 size, and there certainly are some, is going to lose one. That was relatively significant. Countermix limitations forced me to lose an Imperial Guard instead of an infantry because I just don't have the replacement counters for the infantry. Again, you know, to me that's a better solution since the Guard is almost useless anyway, and just expensive stuff is the only problem. That's a better solution than putting some extra counters in, which I feel like I've got no problem with doing since I did it over there. Like, I honestly think that the Poles actually don't have the countermix. It didn't have it to begin with. I don't think I lost a piece, but it's quite possible. So I'm not completely writing that out, but it just feels like not much thought was put into what we actually need in the game. You know, when there are countries that have too many counters that they have no possibility of using, like too many 1-point counters or something. It's just ridiculous. All right, I guess since I'm online talking, let's roll their production. Ooh, I forgot about Spain, but Spain's not got any issues here. Spain gets 2 points. I've recovered all my boats, so now I guess I start building a new one. We'll put another French boat out that I have to slip somewhere. Put it here. Force him to blockade something else. And I guess I get normal buy-ins, which, yeah. Did I lose that guard unit? My production was such that if I took the guard unit, I wouldn't be able to take the other 2 points of production I get. And if I don't take the guard unit, I can only take 3 points of production. That's kind of okay, because I can spend a point of production on this. But again, this is just me avoiding the countermix issues. Ooh, I did not grab my Polish point. Okay. Sort of this, I don't care, I'm being sloppy type stuff gets me in trouble with. Bavaria is an example. I'm probably going to move Eugene with his whole force down. I can rebuild a Bavarian unit at any point. So if the Austrians are kind of threatening Bavaria, I can build it. But I kind of worry a little bit in my head because I have a couple of 2-point units. That means if I get normal production, I'd have to make change. And I've actually, you know, I don't like doing that. So I could see myself fucking up and not building that unit, even if it's advantageous to do so, just out of laziness. I want to point out, I think the way passes maybe worked is different between the two games, where there was a cost for crossing the hex sides and there's not in the original. I'm not going to look it up. I don't really care that much. Again, you know, I mean, I'm growing very lazy. But basically, I'm putting a blocking force. So now Ferdinand's little expedition is pretty much stymied. Did look it up. Because it's easy enough on the old map, and it's very clear here. It's just, instead of giving the information up here, they've got it on all these stupid notes. But the way they have it is a unit expends 1 movement point to enter a mountain hex through either of the hex sides connected by the dotted movement pass. No cost for leaving the pass and like shooting out this way, although you couldn't move cheaply into the mountains that way. Doesn't make sense. Well, the wording is the same shit over here. It's not necessarily the same. A unit expends 1 movement point to enter a mountain hex through either of the hex sides connected by the mountain pass line. That's something that should have been corrected. It's just illogical. I guess they're skiing down. I don't know. The hammer is not falling yet. I could have hit Moscow, or I could have hit Barclay. Moscow's got more troops than Napoleon does. Barclay would be close to an even fight. Remember, if I lose battles with Napoleon, they're permanent victory points that the coalition gets. So I don't want to. I don't want to fight that. I didn't have enough of an advantage to be worth it. We've got. I decided to send Davout heading back again, sort of counter-marching from where he was before, because I'm a little worried about, hey, a threat to my supply line could come from Kiev. But honestly, the real risk is Moscow. Moscow falls, the game is over at this point. Not much reason to make risky attacks over here, although I did find that I had something fucked up. Charles had no troops, but he had this here. I gave him Bellegarde's troops. I know that's wrong. I don't know what was going on, but that's close to the situation. Just trying to make sure that the Austrians can't break out and cause any real damage anywhere. But for whatever reason, who's that? Bessier has decided to attack Louis, because Louis is not entrenched yet, and that's a real threat on the Vienna-Budapest line there, which, you know, again, knock Austria out, and they're no longer a threat. So they've got to fall back and defend their capitals. It's actually a pretty close fight. It's at 1-1. The first die roll didn't go, I mean, mixed results. Nothing too bad. This big die roll, because the French were deemed the larger force, they're actually the same size. I ended up, you know, that ends up being a bad roll for the Austrians, but this is not a great roll for the French. They each took a loss. Now Louis got the interesting question, and we've got real interesting questions over here with the Russians too. Do they want to, you know, try to beat Napoleon in a battle by coming out of Moscow? Can't really defend it, and Moscow does end the game. So I don't know. This looks like a dangerous point, actually. But getting back to this battle, now the question comes, does Louis want to fight a little bit at a disadvantage or fall back? Does this really do anything to defend me? A little bit. 1, 2. I mean, Vienna could be taken. There's no question about that with a forced march or whatever. Me being demoralized would be bad. If I don't lose this hex, I feel like I'm kind of safe. If I lose this hex, there's a significant threat, but not a huge one, because he doesn't have a follow-up force. But this would be so this might be demoralized, in which case I would have to fall back. But if I give this hex up, I think I have to fall back anyway. So I think I'll continue fighting rounds. This is kind of interesting. It's not often in this game where you look at a piece of terrain and say, yeah, I want to hold that. Like, that's actually important. Luck said that was a bad choice. The next die roll, I don't remember, this was like a 12. Ended up D3ing these, no losses to Bessier. Cav pursuit, so I ended up taking, I think the D3 did about 3. 25,000 to 5,000 in losses. It's an impressive battle. And, you know, that's the kind of battle, with those 2 rounds, with those results, I say is, you know, something that I would be cool seeing played out in a game, right? I think that's, you know, Not one of the hugest battles. We were looking at about 45,000 men on the side, but an important battle that had an important result. It wasn't just, the one round skirmish, each side loses 5,000 and somebody falls back, that this could have been. Only 2 rounds, but those dramatic D3s, those can do a lot of damage. And then the biggest thing is I'm not able to face, I have to make my roll to recover, which really forces me to fall back. That's the end of the French side of the turn. I think the Russians are going to go for Napoleon. Just because, so that's a risky move, one that I'm more likely to lose than win, but I don't see how I can defend Moscow if I just let him bring his forces up. Right now, the French are kind of weak. It's the time to strike and hope for the best. And I might significantly gain a bit of time if I do. I fucked up. Oh, I did attrition first. The attrition die roll was hey, that doesn't look bad. Well, problem is I'm in Russia, so I don't get a modifier for home country, and I lost 1 strength point. But everything counts on this last little fight here. What I forgot to do was I did check. There's no attrition on the Austrians. I forgot to move the boats, but I also forgot the British roll, so I do that. But I got to blockade that. I'm kind of worried I'm running a little late now. It's almost 6. I got to finish the turn, obviously, because I already started the coalition side. It shouldn't be too hard, but it's harder than it has been for the last couple turns. Proves their odds by building a horde of Cossacks in Moscow. I still am troubled by the idea of Cossacks being able to be built anywhere kind of north of Kiev. But this game doesn't have a restriction on that. I've already moved my Austrians. We fell back because we didn't recover. I pulled Schwarzenberg out of here. I pulled Ferdinand off his route. Might be thinking, fuck, Ferdinand was your way of stopping Russia from losing. Yeah, it is. But he has less troops than Eugene, and would have to spread out to supply himself getting towards Trieste. It's just not possible. Trying to keep Austria in the game as a potential threat seems more important. That allows me to hold much of my line, maybe although I'm being outflanked. But 1, 2, 3, 4. I could make a stab at Munich. That might be worth it. I think the French made a fucking mistake by abandoning Munich. Let's do that. But laziness and not paying attention and being under time pressure and all that gets me. The move down here that stripped Bavaria, I think. Well, seriously, there's only one there. Okay. Means that Bavaria just surrendered. The troops switched sides, which mean they would disappear otherwise. But it means that there are a bunch of landwehr placed in kind of annoying places that can cause issues to the French. But this is maybe I don't know. It'll just get overrun, but it's going to cost me another strength point as well, because that's part of my supply line. It doesn't have to be. Right now, I've got the supply line built up. I haven't moved my Russians yet. I'm really under the gun here and rushing too fast. But yeah, this was a huge bonus for the Austrians. Now, they're going to lose it. It's going to fall back, but that's life. Something I forgot to do. The Austrians, for this turn, last 2 turns, should have been getting landwehr in their force pool. Not that they can build it, but yeah. Everything moving up as far as it can. The biggest force I can get it with Bagration there. This is an important battle. I think I want to do it live. Actually, I found I fucked up because, and this has to do with, even in the original there, kind of hard to tell those guards from those Cossacks. It's easy with the zoom, but they got mixed in the same stack and I didn't notice. But I swapped it out. I had built a guard accidentally for one point. Let's take a look at what we got. Napoleon only has 5 strength points, and Bagration, who's leading the attack, has 7, 8, 9, 10, and he has Bennington with him. Right? No, Buxhausen with him. 10, 14. So it's going to be a 2-to-1 attack. The Russians have the cav advantage. That'll cancel out Napoleon's advantage. He doesn't have guard or anything with him. So it's 2-to-1 and even. Roll over here so I don't make a mess on that. The one hand. But at 5s on both, which means both sides lose 1. Which means, I don't know where we take this from. France has a couple of choices. Their best choice is run away, because Barclay de Tolly only has 1 strength point. This game is over. There is nothing, well, a very unlucky die roll by the French might cause no damage in Moscow. Let's see, how's, there's 3 strength points here. I don't want to stack with that. We'll fall back into the woods. Bagration sure the hell doesn't want to advance. We have leader loss checks, that might help a little bit. There's an extra Russian leader. And it was a bad idea to attack because combat, like there's no way of sort of screening or anything like that except by putting a whole fucking line of troops up. So I think the same kind of mistake that I made with Bavaria I just made over here, it's going to cost the coalition the game. They were going to lose anyway. But, you know, I mean, it's a matter of like, Austria's not saving them. It's possible that maybe I got a bigger result, like I got a really good big result against the French, but this is the most likely thing to happen. The French fall back and are not too hurt, and Moscow is no longer garrisoned. And Moscow is the game at this point. There is nothing that can be done. Nothing. That's the only neutral. All right, up here, Jesus. There's weird shit going on back at the pavilion. It's Saturday, probably about 1 p.m. We can hear some of this if I open this window. It's not as bad as I thought. I'm wondering if somebody's in my yard doing weird shit, like noise-wise. Oh, we got a buddy. Anyway, went dancing. Got a ride home for the first time in a while. We just haven't been making the right, you know, it's just been sort of circumstances that have been preventing me from getting one. But I'm, as you can tell, up earlier than I should be and less articulate than I should be. I feel fine. But anyway, I came up here because the game's almost over, and I'm like, let's get it finished. As to the dancing, not as, so weird. So I did my birthday request. They played a lot of songs for me. It was great in that respect early on. And when there's room on the floor still, they played the song I requested. that I request every year. Sometimes they don't, but it got packed, as it always seems to, and I don't know. I don't have a lot of memory, but I was more aware than I used to be for a while. Back to what I expected, and I don't know. I don't really remember the end of the night. Like, I remember after I left the bar, but I don't remember the last couple songs. What the hell? That's my fridge. Anyway, we're near the end of this game. This is, I think, the last turn. Because, and there was really no answer. Bagration came out, attacked Napoleon, and now he can't defend Moscow. I mean, it's possible. So, if Barclay, my hands have been shaky yesterday too, while I was out more than usual. Somebody noted that they were like shaking. But anyway, yeah, if I had been able to leave more forces with Barclay, when he gets attacked, I could end up reinforcing. But that's not going to work. He's not going to be able to fight a field battle, first of all, because he's small enough he'd just be overrun. And he's not going to be able, or an auto victory or whatever. And he's also too small to even hold up in a siege. So it's just going to be a single round. I could call it here. Maybe I should, because there is just nothing that can be done. But I'll go through the mechanisms of, putting some Prussians on the board. I don't know. There's absolutely no reason. Let me just take a look. Jerome has, I don't know, it's not that big, 5, 6, 7. I don't get 4-1, so I don't get the automatic unless I can bring another strength point up. So yeah, I guess we'll play it out. Okay, the I guess we'll play it out doesn't bother me too much, including the attrition roll, although that requires a fair amount of checks. But what is going to bug me is moving all these pieces if they don't matter. So I think what I'm going to do is just move what's here and then get it into supply and everything if the game's not over, and worry about Austria if the game's not over. I'm not going to, the effort to move all the French is actually pretty heavy. That's a big attrition roll. That may impact things. Oh, no, Napoleon's too small. Because he's got the... Oh, no. He gets hit by one. Yeah, because he's in Russia. So, yeah, that's going to impact the strength that he can bring to bear. Maybe making this... That's only one strength point, though. It dies almost on any roll. This is a harder attrition check than I've had in a while. Well, than maybe I've had yet. Because Spain should have been similar, too. Some of the forces are in Russia. But it's because I rolled a 6, which means even small forces are impacted by this. Anyway. Say, oh, well, that happens to everybody. Yeah, except that I have to check each leader. Is he in Russia or is he somewhere else? That's the issue, is that I don't just automatically know what the impact is. I have to reference the board, and that makes life harder. I also might have some stacks that are in here that are attrition capable that have at least 3 strength points. The amount of weird noises coming out of there is really fucking annoying. Like there's people going boo, shit like that. I don't know. Like there's kids, but somebody's being very loud who's not a kid. I think to or who's not a toddler, or less. Maybe to distract them or something. I don't know. It's just really fucking weird. I've been hearing all this weird noise, and I opened the window to try to get it. Now it's not happening. But that's the noise that I was hearing that sounded louder than the PA that they've got hooked up. And I'm like, it sounds like, at one point it sounded like it was coming in through my side door. Now it sounds like it's the back. I don't know what the fuck. It's pissing me off, man. Anyway, still working through the attrition because it's painful. Not getting it now, but the guy who was on the PA, instead of speaking, was like, well, no, this is close. Singing like, not like somebody who was hired to do that. Kind of like, and not getting through whole songs, just crooning for like a word or four. It sounded like. It's really, like, whatever's out there is fucking weird. I'm thinking when I'm done with this, I'm going to poke my head up and see what it is. I have to change my pants because the whole back end is gone on these. I'm just wearing them for warmth. It reminds me of like when Fred Rogers would sing. You know, just he would come in and sing his little song or whatever, but this guy's worse. He's just bad. Maybe they may have like a karaoke machine there. What a horrible thing. Like, I don't know. It's like, I don't think about that because what he's singing is like New York, which is like not something people would normally sing at the karaoke that I've seen or been near. But it's like, I could see that, something along these lines. Because this is certainly somebody who should not be on the PA, who should not be mic'd singing. What that is, though, there's no musical accompaniment. So that kind of doesn't make sense either. Like karaoke, I think, always has music with it. It's just, oh, Jesus. And I closed the window because it's the same guy doing another song. I mean, this guy is, I think, the entertainment. Oh, God. All right, well, I'm done with my attrition at least. Oh, no, I'm not. The Spaniards. Forgot about them. To close the window, but thank God he's actually shut up. Like, usually kids are about the most annoying thing, and there's kids yelping and crying and whatnot out there. But man, I did not imagine there would be a bad singer. Like, he's really bad. Anyway, I have finished both the attrition and the production. Nothing exciting on the production. Poor Spain got wrecked by that attrition. And the French aren't building Spanish infantry or anything back up. I don't know, I would have had to spread my Spaniards out much, much worse to be able to avoid that attrition. Those sixes are nasty. And now, they started up again. I will focus just on this area. Get Napoleon to the front. I may set up so that his supplies, so that he has supplies, just so that I can justify that. But I know I'll be able to. There, you get to hear him in all his glory. I mean, he's not off key or anything. Well, there he is. Anyway, somebody hired this guy, as far as I can tell. Maybe he's somebody's uncle or something, and this is the way of coping. Anyway, here we are. I've got my supply line. I will move the other units. If this fails, I don't know that it can. The French have, I don't remember. It's a 3-to-1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the 2 strength points the Russians have. Doubled because they're in the fort. They're not outside. But that still gives me 2-to-1. And Napoleon gives it a +1. I can't use the cav bonus because it's an assault. Ooh. I do nothing. That's what I need to get. But that's 1 round. To 7 to nothing. So now I get to attack again. Basically, the only way that Russia can win is a string of, not that, but of decreasing the French while the French do nothing to them. And this will end it at 11. At 11, that's going to be a 1d3. That wipes it out. That's the game. What do we know? So, I don't think that there is really an easy way to stop France. And I felt like that was the truth in the original game, but for different reasons. In the original game, I would do something that I thought was kind of cool, which was, yes, I'd pick off Austria and Prussia. I'd never go into Spain. I'd never go into Russia because I know my history. But here we can see going into Russia isn't that bad. Once you beat up their army, you don't really suffer that horribly. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to make typhus checks after the invasion. They're unlikely. Invasion started about there. There would be 3 or 4 checks. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's on a 12, so. Because that increased, not that I would have gone back and fixed it, but I just wanted to see what happened. That increased attrition rate would make the invasion much, much harder. As it was, what I took was kind of on a shoestring, right? If Bagration hadn't come out to attack, that fight would have been a pretty much equal one. Because you can see Napoleon just doesn't have much. He has a lot of cav. But the tide was definitely against the Russians. And they were going to lose. And the Bagration move was kind of a, ooh, I might get lucky and demoralize Napoleon, knock him back or something like that. I think it was a mistake to come out. You know, obviously, it just opened Moscow up. A mistake of the same nature as this. But it ended the game quicker, and I can't be too unhappy about that. Yeah, it's very hard to see a way of stopping France, even with all the scripting and everything. One thing that might have helped if Britain wasn't locked away with no transports and unable to provide money or arms anywhere, troops anywhere. But, you know, I mean, Spain, not a cakewalk, but absolutely doable. You just have to be a little careful and you can conquer Spain. That was something that had been my impression before. And Russia, look, you know, the Austrians coming in and whatnot, it doesn't do that much because the way the victory conditions are set up. Now, I could have set up a little better had Ferdinand up here, but maybe if I do that, I also, you know, am a little bit more careful with my French and have them set up to defend against Austria instead of just trying to funnel troops as quickly to Russia as possible. It's not like, those troops I've been funneling, some of them, the ones that I could have used are actually the ones that I pulled down. I mean, I pulled guys out of here. These guys might have been included in the Austrian connection, but I just don't see in this circumstance how Russia was supposed to succeed, to survive. I think maybe the answer there is, although France can beat Russia's army. I mean, Russia's got a good army, but it can be beaten. It was beaten in Austria during the withdrawal. What I was going to say is, I think maybe the answer is, don't bother defending Austria and Prussia the second time. Like, if they end up back in a war, just kind of abandon them and try to preserve your army. I don't know. A lot of it has, maybe I don't know how to defend in this game, is the issue. Because if you spread your troops out, which is what I did, they can be concentrated against and picked off. If you don't spread your troops out, if you leave them in huge stacks, which is how I used to play more, the attrition gets horrible. So it's like, and this little thing is such garbage, Look, if you're in contact with the enemy, these formations don't actually do anything. Like, yes, a unit can support another unit, but the battle, your little units of 5 strength points or whatever, they're not going to be wiped out, but it's kind of like, yeah, but do I really want to keep fighting? I don't have an advantage. The advantage comes to the attacker, so I just fall back or whatever. And then if I'm not really on the offensive, I kind of don't want to hit the enemy, but his forces may be concentrated, so he'll be taking more attrition, so he pays in that. I don't know. It just the combat system in this, it doesn't feel quite as abstract and, hey, it should just be an area combat game the way that Nations in Arms did. But it also, I don't feel, adds much. Like, it adds a lot of tedium without a whole lot of what feels particularly like Napoleonic activity. I don't agree with those people who've criticized this and say, oh, it feels like World War I. It doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. Maybe they're thinking because of the entrenchments and, which does seem kind of weird. The fact that, like, the way that you defend seems to be you put out something kind of like a cordon and you throw entrenchments on everything and you try to prevent your cities from falling that way, because you can't do it in an open battle without the defensive thing, and then you can't actually build the entrenchments on cities either. So that's kind of funky. I don't know. I'll say I'm glad it's over. I have something else that I had started reading the rules for. It's another big game, and I'm thinking I need to do something smaller, because I don't want to be, like, I'm going to be reading these rules for a week or so. I didn't think this was going to be over as quickly as it was when I chose that game, which was pretty much when I packed up the Axis of Evil stuff. Actually, maybe even before that. Anyway, this is War and Peace. I don't think much, like, this is trying to use the victory conditions from the new version. I think I pretty much have that covered right, in terms of the proportions, and that the French legitimately would have won that one as well. All right, let's send it up.